Hello and welcome to this week's Coffee Club. Myself, Robert Grieve, with me this week, David Friel. Bill Leckie still unavailable for selection. Gareth Law stepped in last week, but we've patched him, the big man. What are you going to say?
I was just going to say, is Bill away in a deadline day transfer?
A sabbatical. I think it's a sabbatical.
Sabbatical. So it's still on move. Sporting Lisbon.
He's away. Yeah, we've done a short-term transfer for yourself. Anyway. As you mentioned there, it's been transfer deadline week. Well, the window closed on Monday night, a late one, waiting to see what happened. Not very much did happen. Jeffrey Sloop came in for Celtic. Rangers did a bit of business early on with Lyle Cameron. They signed a pre-contract, we'll talk about that in a while. Aberdeen did a good bit of business. Hearts did a bit of business. At Mirren, not as much as they wanted. Kelly, a couple of things. Celtic, first of all, I was going to ask you about that, David. Brendan Rodgers spoke about it yesterday, on his take on how things worked out. What did you make of it?
I think Celtic did some good business, like a lot of good business in a sense. Kieran Tierney has been signing a pre-contract and will come in the summer. Jota, I think, is a game changer for Celtic. I think he lifts the team. You saw on Sunday against Motherwell what he's capable of. I thought he was really good when he came on, especially when he went to the left. I think he's an upgrade on Louis Palma, if you want to say like for like. Yeah. Jeffrey Sloop, I actually think it's a good sign in a sense that Alec Vaille's gone. Celtic needs somebody to fill in on that left hand side, so he comes in, and I think he's an experienced guy, played in the Premier League for many years. I think he'll do more than a good job for Celtic. The big one is the striker, the lack of a striker, which I think everybody, Robert, is surprised about.
Yeah, it's the elephant in the room right now as far as I'm concerned. Brendan Rodgers made it clear before the window shut, before Kyogo was sold in actual fact, and we spoke to him about that and how that if Kyogo was to go, as we thought he would, we spoke about that on here long before it happens, but he made it clear at that point that if Kyogo was to go, they had to get a new striker and another striker in. It didn't happen, it's not materialised. Now Celtic, as far as I'm concerned, we're desperate. It's not as if the money wasn't there, it's not as if the money wasn't available, but fundamentally they were unable to spend it. Does that fall on the recruitment side of things? There's been changes to the way it works at Celtic in the last few months, and I think that's maybe something that they'll be disappointed in, that they haven't managed to get something over the line. Something.
You'll hear this stuff about the border penny pinching, etc. I just don't think that's the case.
I don't buy
it's
that.
Not the case at all, right? Celtic had money to spend. Celtic were in talks to sign very expensive strikers.
Yeah.
I think where the failure falls here for me is a lack of foresight. I think if Kyogo knows that he's going, if Kyogo's informed Celtic months ago that he wants out, to me, Celtic sell Kyogo when they're ready to push the button on a replacement. And I get that in the here and now for the rest of this season, Celtic might have 20-22 games left in all competitions, right? You might be able to get away, or you probably will be able to get away with what you've got just now, but I think Celtic need to start looking forward to what is probably almost certainly going to be a Champions League qualifier in the summer. I think they need to get a replacement in, if possible, in this window. A young replacement, a full-time replacement, not just a loan. And I think the failure to get that doesn't reflect well on the recruitment side of things.
Because that's the thing, we've been in this movie before, especially Celtic. They go into these Champions League qualifiers undercooked. You know, they're searching for a couple of players, and invariably they go into these games and it's almost kind of makeshift. We've seen Near Beaton playing at centre back in games at Copenhagen or something like that we were over, and it's almost kind of makeshift. That's what I think Brendan Rodgers was desperately trying to avoid this coming summer, and yet that's the situation they're going to be in unless they can get something lined up and done in the coming months to be, as you say, hit the button on as soon as the season finishes, then great, but they're going to be up against it, you know, again, getting into these qualifiers.
Yeah, and that's why I felt it was probably important, especially if you're losing a number one player, your first choice striker.
Yeah.
If you're losing him midway through the season, you might think you can cope for the rest of the season, and I think Celtic probably can. But to me, it was about the future. It's about getting a guy in, and I get that there aren't great deals to be had in January sometimes, but if you're getting a really good deal for Kyogo, which I think everybody agrees they are, it has to be with the caveat that Celtic can then get a good deal, and they might have to pay an extra 1 or 2 million to get their number one target. But I think the failure to get that, I just don't think it reflects well on the recruitment side of things.
Yeah, I think there's an argument that Celtic maybe overspent in the summer because clubs will know they're cash rich. Yeah. If they go into any bargaining situation with a club for a player that they want, they go to Bromby for their striker. Bromby know they've got Celtic have got fortunes sitting in the bank, so they're not going to be easy to deal with. And equally, at the same time, if a club comes in for a Celtic player, Celtic aren't particularly easy to deal with. They rightly kind of get value for money, so I don't think they can have any complaints if they're going for a player that they want, that a club's holding out and saying no, whether it's Motherwell, whether it's Bromby, to say no, this is what we want, this is our valuation. But that puts them in a position, but equally, as you say, do they just have to go and spend an extra couple of mil, get it done, and then and that puts them in a better position for the summer in the Champions League?
Yeah, you probably, and we started this by saying the money is there, so I think the money is there, so it would be interesting to know, it would be interesting though to know why the failure was, or sorry, what the failure was to get, say, just for talking sake, Fiskardon was the number one choice, why couldn't Celtic get that over the line? Was it just Bromby standing firm, or was it a case that the deal wasn't far enough down the line? But Celtic sold Kyogo anyway, and that's what I'm saying. That's when it comes down to the timing aspect, and that for me was funny. On the way here, I went into a petrol station, Robert, and two guys were in the middle of a conversation, and I didn't even need to ask what the conversation was about. All I heard was one guy saying, if they don't have a replacement in place, why did they actually sell him? And he was talking about Kyogo and he was talking about Celtic. And that is what the fans out there are thinking. It's not about Celtic against Dundee on Wednesday night. It's not about Celtic in the Scottish Cup this year. It's about forward planning, getting your ducks in a row, getting young talent in to prosper. I don't think Celtic should have probably spent 60 grand a week on a loan striker in this window. No. I think they should have probably just pushed the boat out a wee bit, or got the recruitment in place to get a number one target.
Yeah, I think Celtic should be beyond the stage of signing kind of makeshift loan players. If they're looking at the bigger pictures, which they clearly are, and we've all given them so much praise for the business that they've done in the last few months, the last few years even, certainly last year, then they should be getting players in long contracts and building for the future. They shouldn't be. The short deal, I think, has been done because I suspect Celtic thought Kieran Tierney was going to happen. I think certainly a week ago they probably thought it was going to happen, and then the goalposts have moved a little bit. Arsenal were harder to deal with. They clearly weren't prepared to let him go, and I think that's maybe surprised Celtic, and they've ended up having to do a deal like that, which is fine. I think he's a good player. He's a good age. He's got experience. I think he'll be fine. I don't think there's any issue with that. But I think for your centre forward position, which is going to be hugely important going forward, I just couldn't understand. I thought we spoke about Kyogo, I say a number of weeks ago, and I thought selling Kyogo was the right thing to do. People might argue with that. I've heard various pundits talk about how they shouldn't have done it, how he's still their best player, they're going to miss him. And I was arguing the point where he's 30, he said he's injury history, he wanted to go, crucially, he wanted to go, he was desperate to go, but I was convinced they were going to have somebody lined up. I thought when they sanctioned that deal and let that happen, I was convinced that, I think most of us were, that something was lined up.
I mean, everybody was, and even on Monday, I'm texting you while I'm at the play park with the kids, saying, I don't think this is happening, and you said, surely they'll get someone, Celtic will get someone, but the longer the day was going on, the more it kind of transpired that Celtic weren't going to get a striker in, which I think everybody has been surprised about. And as I say, I'm more surprised with the forward plan element ahead of the summer. I also thinking here now Celtic have left themselves pretty short, because if Dyson Maeda gets an injury, or Adam Maeda gets an injury,
Dyson Maeda's suspended for the next European game.
And that's what I'm saying. So young Johnny Kenny, and it's great to see young players getting a chance, but young Johnny Kenny is probably going to have to be propelled into the Celtic first team over the next few months.
There'll be 3 changes to the European squad. You'd imagine it will be Jota, Sloop, and is it Sloop? Yeah, Sloop, and pronounce his name correctly, and probably Johnny Kenny.
Yeah.
And by the way, fair play to the kid. He'll be probably buzzing at the minute. He was on his way to St Mirren, as far as I'm concerned. I was led to believe long before Monday that he was at St Mirren. He was going to be going there, and as the day started and progressed, it became clear that Celtic weren't going to be doing anything, and that Johnny Kenny was going to be staying put. There was a bit of debate whether he could actually sign for another Scottish club because he played against Ross County for Celtic, but the timelines of the season he played for Shamrock and loan. I think Shamrock maybe actually thought he was the only place he could go, but that wasn't the case. He could have gone to St Mirren or another club. They thought it was going to happen. It hasn't happened. But for the kid himself, he probably woke up on yesterday morning thinking, I'll take this.
Get a chance.
This is my chance. I'm at least going to be on the bench. Daniel Cummings is on his way, so you'd imagine he'll be ahead of him in the pecking order now.
100%.
So for the kid, this might be an opportunity. And by the way, who knows if he comes in, scores a few goals, shows he's got quality. This might be the making of the kid.
Brendan Rodgers does always say always looks from within, so he's going to get a chance. He has to get a chance, I think, because Jota isn't fully up to speed, might not be fully up to speed for another few weeks. Yang hasn't really convinced. You've got to imagine Daizen will still be playing on the wing for a huge portion of games, so it looks like Johnny Kenny and Adam Maida through the middle.
Yeah, I think Maida will probably play significantly more through the middle.
But once Jota gets up to speed.
When Brendan Rodgers first came back to Celtic, I was in Japan for their summer trip, a great trip a couple of us went on, and pretty much all those games pre-season, Maeda played up front, and Brendan Rodgers was telling us pretty much that's how he saw him at that point. It was really interesting because he was talking about how he wanted him to come towards the ball, that Ange Postecoglou always had him running away from the ball, and how he thought he could turn him into a proper striker. He's played up front for Japan, he's got experience of doing it. And then the pre-season finished, they come back home, and before you know it, he's back just playing what he always played. It's a little bit strange, but Brendan Rodgers absolutely believes he can 100%. Score goals as a centre forward. But I think if Johnny Kenny there gets an opportunity, I like what I saw from him against Ross County. It was only a kind of cameo role, he came on for the last 20 minutes or something. I think the boy's got something, and this might be the making of him. Exactly.
Look, he had a great loan spell, and I think you always look at European games as well in terms of what he did in the Conference League for Shamrock Rovers. He was outstanding.
Scored against Rapid Vienna.
So yeah, he's going to have to get a chance. As I said, you can't forget Lewis Palmer's also left Celtic. So Celtic are also a winger light from where they were at the start of the window. And again, I think that feeds into the surprise around the not getting a striker. If you can't get a striker, get a winger in, because Celtic are attackers light now, even though Jota's in. Yeah. But yeah, Johnny Kenny is going to have to come to the forefront now.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I speak, you say, bumping into guys in garage forecourts and pals that you'll know. I think there's just a real disappointment there. I think it was just 99% feeling that Celtic were going to sign a centre forward, and had they done, I think the feeling around this whole window would be entirely different. I think Celtic, and I mentioned this myself the other day, I think Brendan Rodgers, he spoke yesterday obviously, I think he's relatively happy with what's been done for going forward. Jota coming back is a no-brainer. Here in Tierney, another good deal. They've got a couple of guys out the door. He's been able to manoeuvre his squad a little bit, but the centre forward, the striker's a huge position for every team. Yeah. But for the way Celtic go about things, and I think that will be as I say, I know he spoke yesterday, but I think privately he'll be really disappointed.
Yeah. And time will tell just how big a gamble stroke failure to get one in will be, both this season and during the summer.
I think this season, and that's probably one of the reasons for it, I think there's a feeling that this season's done. I think that's why Kyogo was allowed to go. One of the main reasons, they've got this playoff, and I think in the Champions League, and I think there's a feeling at Celtic, rightly or wrongly, that that's as far as they're going to go. They knew they were going to probably get a big hitter once they get through the group stage. They've got a big hitter in Bayern Munich. They're probably not going to get through. The league's won. Domestically, the league's won. So for me, that's why selling Kyogo made sense. Good deal, good money. They thought they were going to get someone else in. So, but as you say right at the start, it's about going forward. It's about from the summer onwards. They're going to need to be. They're going to need to get their ducks in a row. Really be on it.
Yeah, 100%.
And the guys in the recruitment department who have come into the club, I think they need to raise their game.
Yeah, 100%. Because again, you look back to the signings that have been made. Jota was known to the club. Fell out the sky almost. It came quite late. Celtic, fair play, aggressive, got it done. Kieran Tierney, he's coming back because he's a Celtic fan and because he loves Brendan Rodgers. Jeffrey Schlupp was basically a last day phone call to say, do you fancy it?
And even like in the actual Brendan Rodgers
had a link
with him. So
yeah, I think come the summer, I think the people behind the scenes are under a bit of pressure here.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely zero doubt about that. What about the other side of the city, Rangers? I think they've done a good bit of business. First of all, they've not lost anybody significant, which I think must have been a concern for Philippe Clement maybe a number of weeks ago. There was always speculation about Dessers maybe going. It looked as though he was on his way out at one stage. He's still there. We've got Lyle Cameron done for next season, and I actually think that's good for the boy as well, that he's going to finish this season at Dundee because he's had a fantastic season. Continues developing there and come in the summer. I think that's a good deal for Rangers.
I think it is a good deal. Like always, as we speak about, you like to see young Scottish players get a chance. You like to see young Scottish players get a chance to develop at their own clubs, move on to bigger things. I think Lyle Cameron, anybody watching Dundee, and they've got a lot of good young players. I really like Josh Mulligan as well, who plays out in the right wing back at the moment. But I think Lyle Cameron has always stood out, really clever footballer. And to me, Rangers are looking at that market. Connor Barron, Lyle Cameron this year, these Scottish players, and to me it's a no-brainer to get him in a pre-contract. It's now up to him whether he can step up come the summer. But I think he's shown signs that he can. Scotland under 21 experience as well. Good player, really good player. And again, wise business. I did think, I must be honest, Robert, I thought Philippe Clement on Sunday was a bit more bullshit about potentially getting someone in, basically saying he spoke to the board, they'd had a meeting, he knew what he wanted. I think Rangers did have a dabble around a couple, they didn't get anybody in. I still think Rangers are a bit light. I know the money's not, there's not a great deal of money to go and spend there, but they did earn a bit more for the Europa League.
Light for what?
On the wing. I think on the wing. Where is Oscar Cortes?
Yeah.
And I look at it and Igamani's had to play out there, or has been kind of playing out there off a striker. I think he's far better through the middle.
Yeah.
I just think Rangers could have added a little bit more somewhere in the attacking department, because they've got a chance to go deeper into the Europa League. They've got a Scottish Cup to go and win. They need to try and get closer to Celtic. And Philippe Clement just has to take the team forward. Cherny's been outstanding. I do wonder though if they could have looked at something else around that area, because there's a lot of onus. And where's Danilo as well? Danilo's injured too.
Yeah, so that's a strange one for me. Clement spoke about that early part of the season when he talked about how he had a limp and how he always has a limp. Come on, it's like this is just nonsense. And you say that he's in decent money there. He's one of the senior players essentially, and you say he's not been nearly available enough in a Rangers squad. And
look, maybe the trade-off as well for Rangers was that, look, the money's not necessarily there to go and do serious business, so let's just keep who we can, because there's no doubt there was interest in Cyril Dessers from Italy especially, and I think anybody watching Cyril Dessers in the last 2 weeks would be thinking, what a player Rangers have got in the hand, because he's been outstanding. So I think holding on to him, if he'd have said to me at the start of the window that Rangers would have sort of rejected or kind of rebuffed any efforts to get him out the door, I think we'd all been surprised. But I think it was important to keep him, given that Danilo, Cortes, Matondo's away, Kieran Dowell's away. I think Rangers are kind of light in bodies here, but it looks as if some of the young boys are going to get a chance now as well. And I think that's just the way they're going to go forward for this season.
I think they're going to do that because the B team's been basically demolished. It's an interesting one because we're talking about Celtic there in terms of letting players go and not replacing them. In fairness to Rangers, as I say, there was a period where it looked as though Dessers was going to be shown the door. And there probably been at one stage, there wouldn't have been many Rangers fans up in arms about that, but it's as though they've made a decision that, well, we can't replace him for anyone better, so let's keep the status quo and we'll re-look at it in the summer.
And that's what I'm saying. I think that was maybe the trade-off, because Philippe Clement, more so than he had been throughout the window or before January, was. And Patrick Stewart said it would be one, possibly two. They brought in Rafael Fernandez, the central defender. But I just felt in the last week he was talking more about it and saying, I've made it clear what I need. I think we need, and you need to ask the board that there, and is the money there? I think he clearly felt they could have added a couple, but maybe, as I said, the trade-off was you just keep everybody that you can. Yeah,
the Lyle Cameron one's a good one, I think. It's actually made me think back to the days of Scott Brown and Kevin Thompson, two young players. They were at Hibs at the time, and one went to Rangers, one went to Celtic. They were quite similar players at that time, and they had different careers at both clubs. Two good players, and it's great to see. It's really good. There's an argument that are these kids better going? Say kids, I'm not exactly kids, but are these players better going abroad, better going to England? But at the same time, do we want our better players? We get better younger players play against Scotland. I mean, you had a story the other day about Lennon Miller, Celtic looking at him. They made an offer for him early part of the window. You broke that story on deadline day. It turned out they've not. They didn't follow through with it, but you can almost guarantee they're going to have another look at it in the summer. But if you're Lennon Miller, for instance, if you're Lyle Cameron, is it a big choice to make if you have options to go abroad? Because we have seen players go abroad to Italy and done brilliantly. So. But is it a good thing that we've got kids or younger Scottish players who are still deciding, no, I want to play for Rangers and Celtic, who are obviously two massive clubs?
And I actually think it's good just to see young players stay in Scotland beyond their 17, 30, because see the talent drain, Robert. It's becoming a big issue. You spoke about Daniel Cummins West Ham clearly interested, throwing a pre-contract at him. It looks as if he will eventually go. But there is a long list of players. Dundee United lost a few last week because of the rules around signing players out with the UK because of Brexit and everything like that. The English clubs are just coming to Scotland and trying to hoover up so much talent. And my fear is that a lot of these boys, and I understand why they take the deals, I understand why they take the offers, because they are being offered Premier League contracts, a contract with a Premier League development team on big money, and I can understand the temptation there. But I fear that a lot of these boys will just disappear off the face of the earth. You know, they'll just be lost in the academy system. Whereas I think some of them, and Brendan Rodgers spoke about this recently as well, if they show a bit of patience, show a bit of patience and go and do your work, you know, and go and learn your craft, learn your trade, do your apprenticeship. I mean, I look at Falkirk, the young boy Keelan Adams, who was a university student, is now playing every week for Falkirk. That boy will go very, very high level. But what I like about him is he's just getting games under his belt, and I sometimes think the younger boys are too impatient to go and the bright lights of the English Premier League. And I can understand, but they're not all Ben Doak. They're not all guys that can go and actually operate at that level. You know, there's a lot of them, a lot of learning to go. And I think the Scottish League is very good for them to do that. And like Lyle Cameron, Lennon Miller, I dare say they could have left at 16, 17, 18, but they've stayed. And then do they move on to somewhere else in Scotland, or do they go abroad? That's a decision for them. But I just like to see them at least get 100 games under the belt, for example.
I think it is a very, very difficult one if you're in that situation, because I think if you're an 18, 19-year-old playing in Scotland every week, I'm not naming names, but if you're somebody who's at that age playing pretty regularly for a Scottish Premier League team, and you're getting, or even the boy at Celtic who's barely played for Celtic, he's going down to play development football. He's not going down to play for West Ham. No. He's going down to play under 23s football, basically, which is boys football still. And he'll probably play in that level for a year, 2 years, and then they'll see where he is. He'll be getting more money. He'll be getting a significantly, a good chunk of, a good contract. But is his development stalling at that point? And that's what Brendan Rodgers was touching on the other day, that the environment he's in just now, there might be incremental steps at that minute, and it might not be the big jump to a big club, but is that what you're better doing? We've seen so many players in Scotland. John McGinn's always a great example at St Mirren. He could have jumped at an earlier stage. He stayed at St Mirren. He played a number of games, get seasons under his belt, and then took one jump to Hibs. He could have made a bigger jump, probably. He took one jump to Hibs, did the same thing for a couple of seasons, and then made the jump. And now he's a Scotland captain and a Scotland senior player, and playing in the English Premier League every week. Made a fortune. Will never need to work a day in his life. That's, for me, that's the way to do it. Yeah, and so we were both at Fir Park working on Sunday, and you spoke to Cal McGregor. Cal McGregor's also a prime example. Didn't make his Celtic debut until 21. You know, and there are other examples out there as well. John Souttar's another one, by the way. John Souttar was one that just stayed. But I mentioned that to Cal, David, that he's that's not a norm. He went in loan, Notts County, and at that point could easily have thought, right, Celtic's in the past, I just need to try and make a career for myself down there. Jack Grealish was doing the same thing on loan from Villa, but no, he had it in his head coming back. And there might be people out there who think Cal McGregor should have gone down south, should have gone abroad, should have tried something different. You look at what he's won, what he's achieved at Celtic. As I say, he's never going to work a day in his life when he finishes. It's all there for him. He's idolised by the fans. Maybe, by the way, not as much as he should be. That's a different argument. But he's not going to be sitting here this morning at any day thinking, should I try my luck in England? You know, but I think that's unusual now. Kids, Callum McGregor, it's different from him, I suppose, because at 21 he didn't have West Ham champions door saying come to England. It was Notts County on loan. But he had the patience and the foresight and the vision to think, no, there's a pathway for me here at Celtic. And I think it's a very difficult one. I do think it's a very difficult one, because until you're in that situation, I don't know what you would do. But I just think, as you say, there's a danger that kids who, at that age who leave Scotland and go down south are going to get lost. But I also equally think it must be very difficult to turn that opportunity down, you know. Yeah, and again, until you're in that position, it's hard to say. For example, Daniel Cummins, I can maybe understand him saying, you know what, this is West Ham, I'll back myself. But to get back to the original point, it's good to see a Lyle Cameron or a Lennon Miller just stay calm, stay patient, learn their trade, and then learn their big move. Yeah, Lennon Miller's got great. His dad there's great advice for him. He's got good people behind him. He'll make the right choice what he does next. He's clearly a kid with his feet in his ground. It's probably been unlucky for him he's picked up the injury when he did, but at the same time he's ahead of the game. He's not trailing in any way, shape or form. He'll be back, and I think this summer he'll get a good move wherever it is. I actually think I wouldn't be surprised if he goes abroad. I wonder if he might be one of the players that does the Italian route. I think that might suit him more than anything.
But I think there'll be serious interest in the summer, as you say. Celtic will undoubtedly show an interest again come the summer, but I think there'll be a lot more. Although he does only 12 months in his deal left come the summer, so does his price go up or down? I suppose it depends how many he's in for.
Yeah, it does. What about the window overall? Aberdeen did a bit of business. Hearts, St Mirren did one or two things. All the clubs did a little. Scott Arfield was a fantastic signing for Falkirk. That might be the thing that just pushes him.
I think the Championship's fascinating now because
what a job Scott Brown's done.
Yeah, he's done a brilliant job. I mean,
level-headed.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him a couple of weeks ago. I thought they were really good. Yeah, calm Scott Brown.
He's done brilliantly.
But Livingston are still up there winning at Falkirk. Falkirk, I still think, are the best team in terms of how they play, and I think they brought in four on deadline day. But Scott Arfield one completely jumped out. And I always said to you, we were speaking off camera earlier on. Off camera. I like the wee fairy tale stories. I like guys that go back to their first club. I remember Charlie Adam doing it right at the end of his career, getting Dundee promoted, and I just think
Stephen
it's good.
Thompson,
Stephen Thompson at St Mirren winning a cup.
Yeah.
I just think it's good when guys who go back to their boyhood clubs. Scott Arfield was, burst onto the scene at Falkirk, did his fair share down there, went down to the Premier League, came back to Rangers, moved on, but to come back, and he's come back to try and get Falkirk over the line in the Championship. And I think it's a really, take away everything in terms of it's a good signing at his age. Good character around the place as well. But the Championship is now fascinating. To me, that was one of the best deals that was done on deadline day. In terms of the Premiership clubs, I watched Aberdeen on Saturday at Hibs. I thought they were appalling. To me, it's a bit, I don't know, that a lot of signings don't really make sense. Duke's away as well, who promised so much a couple of years ago. But the ones for me to watch out for, and I think they've done really good business, is Hearts.
Yeah.
They've got the analytics of Jamestown, analytics behind the scenes. I think some of the signings have surprised some people. Harry Milne from Partick Thistle, good player.
I think that's a good signing.
It is a good signing. Good backup to James Penrice. Jamie McCart, good signing. But the one for me, I think, who stood out is big Elton John up front, Elton Kabangu. I think he's been excellent, and I think he will. But here's my prediction.
Stop pointing me.
Hearts are going to finish above Aberdeen.
Right, what's the points difference now?
I can't remember, but Hearts are
you might know
going to finish. Hearts are going to finish above Aberdeen.
Is that the biggest claim in the world? A club that's going that direction, and a club that's going that way.
Hearts were in the league about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, no, but so are Hibs, and Hibs have.
Exactly, and I think Hibs will also. I think Hearts will finish above Hibs as well. I think Hearts are. I've got something going.
Hearts going to be third.
I think Hearts will be third.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
They've got a bit to go, but I just think they're getting momentum. I think they've signed well.
Yeah, I can't actually see it. I know where they are on the table. I don't know what the points difference is. We should really know
this. It's very tight. It's very tight between basically. I mean, even St Johnstone have picked up, but it's very tight between 11th and all the way up to Dundee United at 3rd. And the points is you're literally 2 wins.
So who's your top? Right, let's put you on the spot. Who's your top 6 right now?
So after the transfer deadline, my top 6 right now
Celtic
is going to be Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Hibs, Dundee United, and Kilmarnock.
No chance.
Yes.
Absolutely zero chance. You've got it wrong. St Mirren will be 6th all day long. Kilmarnock will be 6th. I'm sorry.
It'll be between Kilmarnock and St Mirren.
Derek McInnes will not thank me for saying it, but St Mirren, I've been saying it from day one. St Mirren are by far the 6th best team in Scotland. no doubt about it.
Yeah,
I'm convinced. No, I think.
No, listen. I think it's
they
going
had
to
a bad result at the weekend. They had a really poor result at the weekend, but I think St Mirren are. I think St Mirren are ahead of Kelly in the pecking order.
Are St Johnstone going down? Now we know how the squads are shaping up.
Yeah, I think. Saying that, they've shown.
Scored at the weekend.
They've shown. That's what I'm saying. They get a good result at the weekend. They have shown they're capable of. They've shown they've got fight in them.
Yeah.
They're not going to go down without a fight, and I think fair play to them for that. But at the minute, right now, I would suspect that I think they might be bother, albeit we're a Motherwell on the table.
Motherwell are 6th.
6th at the minute.
Yeah.
Keep your eye on Motherwell.
Yeah, I know.
Keep your eye on Motherwell. I think they did okay against Celtic. Don't get me wrong, they did okay against Celtic, albeit it was a really strange game, wasn't it? Because there was one goal in it,
but there was
so late on, but it was a
the second half was one-way traffic.
It was incredible. At no point did you think Motherwell had any chance of getting up the park and getting an equaliser. Despite their hard work, despite their organisation, I thought Stevie Friel did really well in getting them set up. I don't have any issue with that, but they've got some big games coming up, and we touched on this last week. I wonder if that was part of the Stuart Kettlewell's rationale.
They need to get a manager in. I mean, this is kind of almost been forgotten about the whole.
Yeah, they will, and they're clearly will. There's going to be names flying around, and they might get a new manager bump. But I do wonder. I know you say 6th place. They were 5th place a week ago.
I know.
It's so tight. They could easily find themselves in 10th in the next couple of weeks, and then before you know it, a team heading one direction.
I mean, Aberdeen are 14 games without a win and they're still sitting
crazy,
4th.
Isn't it? But it's because it's obviously such a sensational start. They're actually probably where they should be. It's because they had such a phenomenal start, and then they've had such a dreadful kind of, like you say,
I was actually taken aback though by the level of performance against Hibs, and I thought Jimmy Tillene after the game as well that's his. He never loses his cool, but that's as angry as I've maybe seen him. And
he wasn't angry.
He was, but it was his way of being angry. He didn't look angry, but I thought he left his players in his own very subtle way without a name in terms of losing 50-50s and not showing enough heart. Aberdeen, I would be genuinely worried that they're in complete free fall. I don't see where a win's coming for Aberdeen.
They've signed a lot of new players.
Yeah, but they're not gelling.
At what point does he become under pressure?
I don't think it's that far away, to be honest with you. I don't think it's acceptable for an Aberdeen manager to go, or Aberdeen team to go 14 games without a win.
Fans are
taking 4 points out of the last 42, Robert. I mean, it's managers have been sacked for less. I'm not saying Aberdeen should sack him because they've obviously gone all in on a project. He's brought in a lot of Scandinavians, he's brought in a lot of his own players, and I think Aberdeen will give it time. However, the results are nowhere near good enough and the performances are nowhere near good enough.
Yeah, I think it's certainly one we need to keep an eye on, which we certainly will across Sun Sports, in the paper and online. Enjoyed your company this week, David.
Thanks, Robert.
Gareth last week, I think you're a step up from Gareth. Well, a step
I'm
up.
not a step up, Gareth, I'm 2 foot taller.
He's 6'8". Certainly a step up from Lecky, who's about 5'0". But we'll see what happens next week. But that's us for Coffee Club this week. We're going to dive into these cakes. These are not going back to the office, let me tell you. They've got a great selection.
I better take a few of them back.
I'm not sure about that. I think Roger Hanna does not need another cake. Anyway, that's us for this week. We'll catch you next week. Thanks.